Anaita.
Hi,
How are you?
hi. I'm just going to adjust my camera. Give me one.
Sure. Yes, perfect. Great. So I was telling everyone, and I started the live like couple of minutes before. So I was telling everyone about you and how you are, of course, former chef at Soda Bottle Opener Wala. I mean, all my friends love it. I mean, who doesn't? Anyways, that's another live session in itself. So
Yes.
I was telling everyone that how you have been promoting Parsi culture and Parsi cuisine for the longest time. And of course, a passionate cook. You started really early, which is always good, you know. Not like me who started in the pandemic. So, yeah, also, you are extremely trained, and pardon me if my pronunciation goes wrong here. You have been trained at Lee Cordon Bleu, a grand diploma holder from there, and
Just
several
correct you
awards.
there. It's
Yeah,
Le Cordon Bleu, and it's a
yes,
French institute in London,
yes,
which is
yes,
specializes in culinary art.
yes.
So
Thank you
yes,
so much.
I did
Thank you
my
so much.
grand diploma for there from there. Which the grand diploma is basically a combination of pastry and cuisine, and it's
Okay,
quite an intense course. It's
okay.
a 1 year course,
Yeah.
but it's quite an intense course.
Yeah, like you may have mentioned in the book, it's the IIT of, when you are, it's
Yes.
comparable to IIT. And of course, you were featured in Forbes 30 Under 30 Asia list 2019. And guys, so we are in for something. I was telling everyone, I was showing the book cover, and perhaps we can show it together so that everybody gets a look at it. Yeah. So Anaita is right there, looking very elegant, I must say. Awesome. Uh, that must have been some, book cover shoot. Okay, I read the book. I was blown away. I've been reading a lot of, cooking sort of books like for a couple of years now, and I read the Veer Sangvi book and a couple from him, and then I read Charmaine D'Souza's and so many, But I always love a book where one talks about history, and it makes it so much more authentic. So first of all, of course, Veer Sangvi says that Anahita is part of a new generation of Indian chefs who build on the legacies of the past. She's a brilliant chef and will shine even more brightly in the years to come. So we have to, of course, we have to take the Veer Sangvi very seriously. Thank you so much for, kind of writing this book because oral traditions have been the norm in India, and great that you're jotting things down and writing it and putting it out there. Thank you so much for being
Thank
on
you.
this live.
Can I just interrupt you here when you
Yeah,
said when you were talking about the book cover that it must have
yeah,
been quite a shoot.
yeah.
Honestly, this book cover was not a planned shoot for the book.
Okay.
This sari that I'm wearing
Yeah.
is by a designer called Ashteen, and he
Okay.
does the most beautiful Parsi Gara saris. And
Wow.
this was part of his new collection. And
Right.
honestly, I didn't even choose this. He just sent it to me. He said that I'm doing a series on chefs, and I
Yeah.
want you to wear my sari. And I was like,
Right.
I love wearing saris, and for all
Right.
my book signings, if you've been following my
Yeah.
page, in all the different cities, I always choose a handloom sari which I carry with me and I wear
Right.
it when I do the signing.
Yeah.
So I just wore it and I
Yeah.
created a dish in the kitchen. And there was
Yeah.
a person from the team who was, taking pictures. And
Right.
I just stood in front of a white
Wow.
wall in my house and this
Yeah.
picture was taken. And, I done
Wow.
my own hair, makeup, and everything. And that's it. That is how the picture was
That
shot.
that
And
is so organic,
then
so
yeah, it
organic.
was not planned at all. So just want to tell
Yeah.
you that the planned shoot that we did, we didn't like the pictures. So we went ahead with this picture. And that's how it is
Brilliant.
sometimes in life, some things come across and you genuinely really enjoy it. So
Yeah.
that's how the cover shoot happened.
Yeah. One of the most interesting parts of the book was that where you mentioned that you love repurposing leftover food. And that is, I mean, tell us more about it because it is sort of an underrated thing in Indian cooking, and especially up north. I mean, we tend to waste a lot. I mean, let's be honest, we waste a lot. So tell us more about that.
So, I think repurposing leftovers has come from, our other generations of mothers and grandmothers who have been not just, one of the, the best cooks and the best chefs to learn from, but
Yeah,
also they are very creative.
yeah,
And I've learned that from my mom, I've learned that from my grandmoms and aunts and people in the family that
yeah,
अगर कुछ भी बचा हुआ होता है in the fridge, the next day it's converted into something new because honestly you don't feel like eating the same thing.
right.
And this is just something that I have seen
Yeah,
and I have experienced, and that's why I practice the same thing at home. Obviously there's nothing in comparison to freshly cooked food. Like if you can
yeah,
eat freshly cooked food, please enjoy that. But if you have a little bit left over, even if it's at a restaurant or anywhere,
yeah,
I always say that please pack it, take it back home,
right,
or you create something new with it. Because
right.
what happens, there are so many people involved in growing your
Yeah,
food,
yeah,
even if it's animal source or it could be, fruits and vegetables, whatever it might be. There are
yeah,
lots of people involved in it. There's lots of money that goes into it.
yeah,
So just to protect that, it's
yeah,
coming to your table. So make sure you use the entire thing. And if you have leftovers, be creative and
yeah,
come up with something new. So on my Instagram page, I have recipes with
yeah,
like leftover chana dal. Usually the
right,
next day you can make a dal paratha or you can make a tikki out of it.
right. Yeah,
If you have leftover sabzi, I remember I made this recipe which was called dal chawal soup. So what is a
right.
mulligatawny soup? Mulligatawny is basically a soup which is made out of dal,
Yeah,
and the English pronunciation is mulligatawny, which is what the
right.
Britishers called it. And
Yeah,
honestly, it's nothing but
yeah,
dal, which has got a tadka and it's pisawa and it's made thin
right.
so that you can
Yeah,
have it like a soup. So what I
right.
had is leftover sabzi and leftover dal. I
Yeah,
cooked it all together. I pureed it and I
yeah,
added some more like vegetable stock and I made
yeah,
a soup out of it for dinner and it was delicious. It was nutritious and it's not boring. So I think repurposing leftovers is very cool. It should
right.
be cool. And if you're not doing it, and if you're throwing away your leftovers, then you're not being creative.
True.
And don't waste good food. Don't let it go into the
Yeah.
bin because it's honestly criminal to do that.
Right. You talk about in the book, you talk about, finding your culinary niche. When you kind of broke down when you were studying abroad and, that entire episode, and you cook something very special, and that changes you. I mean, you find yourself perhaps. It's an
Yeah.
epiphany. Tell us a little bit about that. It was very interesting for me.
So I usually say this to a lot of students as well. I think when you leave your family home or you leave your home, whenever, if you're going to college or if you're going to work, you're changing your city, the
Yeah.
first thing that hits you, is the realization of your home cooked food not being there.
Yeah.
And there is a point there where you reach where you're like, oh, it's okay. I'm eating this. I'm eating from outside. I'm eating at a friend's place. I might be cooking something at home.
Yeah.
But you still crave the food that is cooked in your own home. That's why whenever you travel and come back home, you always want to eat
Right.
something which is
Yeah.
like your favorite comfort food. Like for me, it's always dal chawal and aloo ki sabzi. It could be paratha from, someone else. It could be a pulao or a tehri or anything, but it will always be something which is very simple, which is always very comfort food to you.
Right.
So, however excited we are as kids to leave our houses and, just fly out from our nest, we
Right.
don't realize that we really miss our home cooked food. And there was
True.
a point that I had reached when I was in London. I was cooking at Le Cordon Bleu. I was cooking French food every day. And I just wasn't satisfied with it. And I was just like, what is missing? What is missing? Why am I not being able to put a finger on it? And I realized that it's just that masala. Like, it is
Yeah.
just that, I don't know how to say it, but yes, someone just wrote it saying
Yeah.
that, it's your mom's home cooked food, which is your maa ke
Yeah.
haath ka khana.
Yes.
That spice, that warmth, that love, that plate, you might have your favorite plate. I mean, there's so many emotions attached to
Yes,
home.
truly. Yeah.
And as soon as we all leave, we realize that we miss that.
Yeah.
So that happened to me in London, and I realized that I do want to learn French cuisine and pastry. I want to
Yeah.
learn all the techniques as a chef,
Yeah.
but I want to cook my home cooked food. I want to cook Parsi food. I want to promote it. I want more people to try it. And I want to share it with the rest of the world.
Yeah. Let's talk about the book. And on that count, shout out to HarperCollins for letting us do this. Because this kind of, this kind of book, it has got the right mix of history, and history aficionados will love it. I can vouch for it because it has got so much. In fact, I was longing for more, maybe a sequel. So, I mean,
Might take a long time for a sequel, but I have a couple of ideas, but it might take a really long time because this book took 5 years. And I don't want to rush the book.
Obviously, I mean, it looks like, because it is very precise. Of course, the pictures are on point, but the publishing process, was it commissioned, or you had kind of gone forward with this, that this has to go out there in the world?
So HarperCollins did approach me in 2016. They wanted me to write a book on Parsi food, and but I was given the free hand on how I want the book to be. And the first 2 years, I actually wrote out a couple of drafts, very different drafts from what the book is today. Literally went through contents, index, chapters, but I wasn't happy with it. Like I told you, with the dish that I had in London, and you eat it, it might look beautiful, but it's not soul satisfying. So for me, even that part of the book, when I read it, when I was writing it, I wasn't happy with it. So we completely changed the concept of the book, and I wanted it always to be a story and recipe book. I never wanted it to be just a recipe book. I wanted people to pick up the book so that they can also get an insight into Parsi cuisine and culture. They can also understand, other than just the food, they can also understand the community a little bit more. And that's why I chose the format for the book. So let me show some of the people who are here that how the book looks like. So you saw the cover.
Yes.
This is what it looks like. We've already discussed the cover picture and how that happened. But let me just show you the contents, that this is how, the contents look like. And the interesting part, which I really like the way that we've kind of been able to format the book, is that every chapter starts with the name of the recipe. And first, it's a story. So you'll find like a story like this, and then it goes into the recipe. So what happens is you can actually pick up the book from any chapter and you can start reading it. So this is the recipe.
Truly.
And, it's not a heavy read at all. And I'm sure
I finished it in a couple of hours, and I did my research on the way as well. So it is a very quick read first. And also I believe that this book is not to be read once. I mean, it's a very interesting, combination of a cookbook and sort of a storybook. So it's the right balance that you have kind of, found with HarperCollins. Also on page 94, you have quoted Chef Thomas Keller, right? So, and you say that a recipe has no soul, So that was, you as the cook must bring soul to the recipe, which is so true. The recipes are right there. We can look at the cookbooks, like so many cookbooks, but when the implementation, what is soul in terms of cooking?
Yes, this is a very important quote for any cook or any chef, home cook, anyone actually cooking at home or professionally. So Chef Thomas Keller said from this restaurant called the French Laundry, and he said that a recipe has no soul. You as the cook must bring soul to the recipe. Yep. Which is so true because, like you said, you will find thousands of recipes online on, YouTube, on Instagram, in recipe books. But it is how you interpret the recipe, how you create it, in which situation you create it, how much do you enjoy making it, and sharing it with your friends and family. And it's not just the flavor of the dish, it's the moment that surrounds that dish, which will always be a part of your memory. Yeah. So that's why, even in the book, the stories along with the recipe are equally important as the recipe.
Truly. And scribbling scribbling on is asking, I know that you guys are going to talk about food today. Okay, I love that
Yes,
always. But
that
but
is, I know he or she has hit the nail on the right spot. So yes,
yeah.
we are talking about food and we're talking about the Parsi kitchen.
But I'm curious to know what kind of subjects did you like in high school? That's yeah, quite interesting.
Okay, so I never liked maths. I was very bad at it. Very bad at physics also. I think this is more important to tell you because all the other subjects I loved. I
Right.
loved English, I loved history, I loved pol science.
Yeah.
Obviously, I loved home science, and I'm really happy that my college or my school actually had home science. So I took that up in my 12th. So you can take it after your 10th. Before the 10th, you have to do, all the subjects. But
Right.
absolutely hated math and physics.
Right. Great. So, I mean, I really wanted your opinion on because, like so many, other people, I also started cooking in the pandemic and fell in love with it, in fact. And now I keep on, sort of experimenting with non-vegetarian food mostly. But, what is the difference between, learning from a cookbook and YouTube? Because it is kind of, it is tough to kind of for most people to kind of pick up cookbooks and sort of old recipes that you have also mentioned in the book that have been passed on from generations, and you have done a great job at kind of picking so many of them and perhaps improvising also. So tell us a little bit about that.
So, you're absolutely right. YouTube and, books have some major competition right there. A lot of people who are new to cooking prefer going to a YouTube channel because everything is very easily explained and very visually represented.
Yeah.
Whereas in a book, you can have some pictures, you can have some steps,
Right.
but you might not be able to see it in a video format in a book.
Right.
And that's why I would say YouTube is extremely important also as, if you're someone in the food industry to invest some time, if you want to create recipes and share them.
Yeah.
YouTube is very, very helpful. I started my YouTube channel about 5 months ago because I realized that, in the pandemic, there were lots of people who were
Yes.
following me recipes. I
Right.
was, putting it on my Instagram handle, but
Yeah.
what I did not, enjoy with the Instagram handle is the search option. So, for
Right.
example, all the posts are there. You can't
Yeah.
go to someone's page and search for a recipe. You will not
True.
find it. But
True.
if you go to someone's YouTube channel or to Google and you
Yeah.
write Patrani Machi or you write Mawa cake, you write whatever, you'll find my channel come up and then you'll find the recipe with the steps.
True.
So yes, that is full advantage to
Right.
YouTube. Now the part about the book. The book is, like I said, not just recipes. It is the recipes that I have in the book are not shared online. Some of them have been shared only for the promotional value, like to promote the book, to give people a little snippet of what the recipes are. But other than that, a lot of recipes from the book, which are in the book, are not shared online. So that gives it that little bit of extra, that people want to buy it and learn from it. That's the first thing. And secondly, it's the storytelling, which is really
Right.
important, which you will not find. So they are, like I said, cookbooks are almost like heirlooms, at least for people in the industry, people who love their food. For them, passed like generation after generation, cookbooks are passed on. So they are really, really treasured.
So yeah, I mean, I enjoyed all the recipes. In fact, and I'm going to try out some as well. You mentioned in the book that nothing teaches patience like cooking, especially when it's your first time. Not knowing what your final product is going to look like and still going at it requires another level of self-restraint that not every activity can teach you. Apply that to your life or your cooking. Just remember you heard it here first. And,
Yeah.
it,
So I wanted the format and the storytelling to literally be like a conversation. If you're having a conversation with me, these are the things that I will say to you, and that's the way I wanted you to kind of read it. So yes, absolutely. Like if if you're just getting into cooking and you've just started off, honestly, you don't know what the end product will look like. Even
yeah.
for me as a professional, as chefs, it takes us a long time to come to that level.
Right.
where we kind of sketch out a dish. We'll be like, okay, these elements will be here. Even if it's a simple rice curry dish, how do we want to present it? How will it look? What is the color of it? So all these things are there, and they're extremely important. But you, as a person who's cooking it for the first time, I would always just say that go with the flow. Keep tasting. Keep looking at how it's cooking, and as the recipe progresses, you have also learned something. By the time it comes to your plate, you have also, learned an entirely new thing. So it does
Right.
teach you a lot of patience.
Right. There's an entire chapter on chai and coffee, which got me so interested, especially the Parsi chai. And you have also told us about the history. I'm sure the audience would love to know more about your love
So what
for
I'm doing,
chai.
why don't I open the chai and coffee chapter,
Why not? Why not? Totally.
and why not read some paragraph for you from there so that
Sure.
you guys know. When I came back from London and started working at Soda Bottle Loknawala, I introduced Parsi choi on the menu. Boy, did it become a rage. Later, as a tribute to our new discovery, we changed the choi recipe in the kitchen to the Dhondi Bhandari family blend. So choi, just cutting myself here, choi is the Parsi term for chai,
Yeah.
for everyone who's listening. And continuing, people were also super excited to order Feteli coffee because there is a kind of nostalgia associated with that one. It gave customers another alternative to the cappuccinos or lattes that are available everywhere now. Feteli coffee is what we drank at our parents' or our friends' homes. It was the only way of making coffee fancy back then. When mom saw it on the menu, she was surprised. We too grew up with this, she said.
Yeah.
Coffee connoisseurs may frown upon the use of instant coffee, but let's be real, we've all been raised on it. So many of us still drink it, and honestly, I feel no drip, pour over, or machine, or even the best quality of coffee beans can compare to this concoction. When you make something from scratch, it just gets better.
Right.
So I didn't want
So
to read too much, but
Feteli is the Fetili coffee, right? It's the
exactly,
Feteli.
and that's
Yeah.
what's. But with Feteli coffee, a lot of people mess up the quantity.
Okay. Okay.
So if you make Feteli coffee, you might not be able to beat it till it's white. You
Okay.
literally want to beat it. It's beaten coffee. तो वो फेटी भी है नाम उसका वैसे आया है.
Right.
So there's a proportion which I've written in the book, the exact proportion of how much water, how much sugar, and how much coffee do you need.
Right.
So that's important.
So guys, you have to buy the book to know about that. We are not going to tell you the proportion here. Also, a lot of history. I mean, I have so many questions about that, but let's talk about the weekend kitchen, which was really interesting for me, which you have started recently, where it's an entire family, project. How does that work? And can people? I believe it's only in Delhi NCR as of now.
Yes. So the weekend kitchen started in 2020, right after the first COVID wave happened. We started in July. We had actually planned it out in June, but we started it in July. And we ran it from July all the way up till April this year. And we ran it from my mom's kitchen. And, we planned weekend menus every week on Monday. So it was literally a system. On Monday, we used to have a meeting, like my mom and me. And after that, we would decide what would the menu for the weekend be. Then on Tuesday, we would get all the packaging. We would, figure out the ingredients, whatever else. We used to do a trial on Tuesday. We used to decide that, okay, this is how we want it to be. On Wednesday, we used to get a menu made, which used to be designed by my brother. And on Wednesday, every Wednesday at 5 p.m., I would post the menu. And by 7 p.m., they would be sold out because we would only do limited portions.
Wow.
Thursday, we would again meet to plan how we're going to prep everything. Friday, we would prep everything. Saturday morning, I would be at the kitchen at 6 a.m. And by 11:30, we would dispatch all the orders because it was just the two of us. And the reason that the weekend kitchen took off really well was because we did not get anyone from outside. So everyone was really feeling assured that, it's just two people cooking at home.
True.
and we are okay to get food from them.
Yeah.
And when we started, we didn't even have anyone to deliver the food. People used to
Yeah.
pick it up, or
Yeah.
used to be delivered by people in the family. They used to actually
Wow.
deliver it only in Gurgaon.
Wow.
So it started like that.
That's
And
something.
every single weekend we used to do 4 weekends, and then we used to take one weekend off because there was no day off. We were working on Saturday, we were working on Sunday. We were back on Monday for the next weekend. So yeah, and we did collaborate with a lot of small businesses. We did different Christmas menus. We did a Diwali menu. We did 2 New Year menus. So we did a lot of menus in a span of maybe 9 to 10 months. And it was a great learning experience, and I'm glad I got to do that with my mom, because now everyone's back to work, and I'm planning pop-ups in different places. I'm in a restaurant called Guppi right now, which
Okay.
is where the pop-up is happening. I'm doing a
Is it
Japanese
the
pop-up.
one in Khan Market? Is that the
This
one?
is the one in Lodi Colony.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay, okay. It's a
I'm just gonna
Japanese place,
turn,
right? It's a
yeah, I'll just
Japanese
turn the
place.
camera around to show you. This is one area where I'm actually sitting,
Okay.
because I can't go to the other area where the lights are,
Yeah.
since there's too much noise there. So I just came and I sat down over here.
You are in Guppy right now?
I'm doing the live
Oh,
session. Yes.
I've been there actually, so it's a really nice place. Also, Savni is asking, what according to you is the most overrated Parsi dish?
What, according to me, is the most overrated Parsi dish? I might have a few. Let me see which one's my favorite. I think it's Lagannu custard. I am not a fan of it. I am
Okay.
more of the traditional caramel custard. I like the plain caramel custard, but a lot of people like Lagannu custard. It's got a
Right.
strong elaichi and nutmeg flavor. It's got nuts, and it's a baked custard.
Right.
A lot of people love it. Parsis absolutely love it.
Yeah.
It According to me, I find it overrated. I am not a big
Okay.
fan of it, and it's not in my book because I don't like it. So it's not in
Yeah.
my book. But there is a caramel custard recipe in my book, which I'm going to show you a picture of.
Right. Okay, okay. I have to ask you about these pictures. Are these just from the phone, or is it done professionally? Because they look
So,
good, really good.
yeah, so all the food pictures are done professionally.
Okay.
All the family pictures are all from all
Okay.
over, different albums pictures. A
Right.
lot of them are phone pictures as well.
Yeah.
So there are there's a good mix of it, but all the major food pictures are all shot on a
So,
camera, like
yeah.
professionally shot, but they're all shot at home.
Okay. I saw a picture of yours where you have mentioned that you entered the Ananda, uh, you were in Ananda in the Himalayas, and you kind of, went in and improvised a few recipes, So
I
do you
did.
do that? Do
I
you
do
do that a
that.
lot?
I do that very often. I do that very often,
Okay.
actually. Anywhere, any hotel that I'm staying at,
Yeah.
and if they have an Akuri recipe or they have any Parsi recipe on their menu, I always order it. I always eat it. And I always correct it. I always go in. I call the chef and I'm like, listen, to full respect to you guys, but I am here and I would like to teach you this, because if someone else comes here and tastes
Yes.
this dish, I don't want them to get the wrong flavor
True.
of the dish
Right.
that, it's from my community. So, and they also take it really well. So I was
Really?
at Ananda and they had an akuri on the menu, and when I tasted it, I said, this is not right. So I
Yeah.
went into the kitchen. I told them to get all their chefs. We actually planned a demo for them. So I
Yeah.
went into the kitchen to teach them, and I
Okay.
made a party. I made an akuri on toast, and this was
Yeah.
around tea time. Remember, got them all to taste it, and I told them, please never, put the wrong recipe on the menu, because I'm happy to share. I'm always happy to share my recipes, but
Yeah.
I just don't want them to make something wrong. So I
True.
think
True.
it's important to do
True.
that.
You say that your husband believed for some time that you are a hoity-toity chef and you won't be able to cook any homely food. So were you offended by that?
Yeah,
I'm just
I mean, see, like I said in the book, I've been extremely honest
yeah,
about my experiences. And yes, my husband did think that I would not cook him
yeah,
normal ghar ka khana, because every time we've kind of interacted. It could be at a restaurant, it could be,
Yeah.
it was never at home, and never at home cooking. And it was always, events or a pop-up or different recipes. And I would always come up with something different and new and creative. And he never had that, thing in his mind that she'll be able to cook like normal ghar ka sabzi roti, dal sabzi roti. And that's something that I personally enjoy doing the most. Obviously, when it becomes a task, I don't like that, but I like to get into the kitchen with an open mind. And that's what I recommend everyone, that, when you get into your kitchen, see what you have, see what's in your fridge, put it all out, and then think of a dish. Because
Right.
ultimately, I don't know why this happens to all of us. We always find something in the fridge that's going to go bad.
Yeah.
And we take it out and we're like, oh, this one cucumber by tomorrow will just go bad. Or this one slice of pumpkin might just go bad by tomorrow. And I just get into the kitchen and I'll be like, okay, you know what? We've got pumpkin, we've got beetroot. Why don't we just make some roasted pumpkin and beetroot salad? And he'll just be like, okay, I mean, that's fine. Or I'll be like, oh, I've got sweet potato. Let's just have some sweet potato chaat and soup for dinner. So I'm a very instinctive cook. I might get into the kitchen and, make something just like I told you, like I would.
True.
But he never thought I would cook in a home kitchen, because I was always busy in a restaurant kitchen.
Right.
Yeah, that did change. And he gets methi aloo for dinner. Currently, methi aloo for dinner. So
Awesome.
giving real facts, real facts right now.
Okay, a very quick question about, I found something very interesting. There was this dish called patrel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is very similar to the patod we have in the Pahad. Yeah. So, do you know about it? The patod in
Yes, I
Garhwal?
do.
Okay.
I do.
It's so similar, right? Is it the same?
I've eaten the patod, but very different, because there is also a dish in Gujarat which is similar to patrel. There is a Maharashtrian dish also which is very similar to patrel. All have the same basic technique, which is the Arbi ka patta, which is got a nice spreading of besan ka masala, and
Right.
then it's tightly rolled, tied with string, and then it's steamed. And
Right.
so what I've eaten in Uttarakhand is very different from what we eat in Bombay or Gujarat
Okay.
area.
Okay.
The masala is completely different. The technique is the same. The flavors are very different.
Right.
So you will find the spice mix totally different, and you will find the texture also very different, because Parsis, what we do is, after we steam the patrel, which is like the
Yeah.
patod you said,
Right.
we
Yeah.
slice it and then we fry it. And
Okay.
after we fry it, we put nimbu and chaat masala on it.
Oh.
And then because the Arbi ka patta
Yeah.
will give you an itchiness if you don't have enough like citrus to cut through that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how we eat it. And it's a little bit different from the patod in terms of flavor, but in terms of the technique and recipe, it's the same.
It's quite similar. Okay, final question. And evolution is so important, in any profession. And you have said in the book as well that you made a trip to Sanjan, Navsari, and is it Udvada? What do you call
Udvada.
it? Udvada. To kind of evolve, to kind of, look further, because you had explored, of course, a lot in this space, promoting Parsi food, cuisine, and a lot of the culture. What were the new experiences?
Okay, so first I want to say hi to Jadugar by Srijan Jha. He's just joined. He's a great artist in Bhopal. So if you guys haven't checked his profile, I just spotted him coming on to the live chat. But yes, I just want to answer your question. So for me, as a chef, and I think for a lot of people in the food industry, we learn a lot from new experiences. And that's why, if something new opens in our city, we always go and try it out. Not only to just promote it as a, new business or the community, because the food industry is very, very closely knit also. And we're always there to push each other up, because we've had a very hard couple of years. The last 2 years have been very good for the food industry. So that support has always been there. But my travels to Gujarat were purely to increase my knowledge about the places where there's a large community of Parsis.
Right.
So I got to meet a lot of people one on one. I literally went there with no, I didn't plan like meals out in different parts of the city because they are very, very small towns. So I only knew one person in Navsari. I went and stayed there at an old people's home in Navsari, and Mr. Dinshad Damboli, who I've written about in the book as well, he took me around a couple of places, made me meet some local people in the cities, and they actually invited me to their homes. So I traveled alone for almost a month, Bombay, Ahmedabad, Surat, Udvada, Navsari, and I got to learn a lot from people in their homes because they opened up their homes and made me have a home cooked meal. And just from the flavor of things, you can have a conversation, just like we are having a conversation on food.
Yeah.
It's as easy as that. So if we're eating a bowl of dal, I might find different herbs, spices, tadka, whatever it is, and you also might find something similar yet something different.
Right.
So it always sparks a conversation, and after the conversation, you always get to learn more. So my Gujarat trip, I wouldn't exchange it for anything. It was very, very helpful in my research, lots of learning for me personally, and it's a full chapter in the book.
Yes, yes. So guys, buy the book. Post your reviews on Amazon. Those help a lot. There are sequels coming up, so feedback is always welcome by all authors.
Yes.
So also Joshi P. Sunil is asking, Chef, are you visiting Mumbai again? He's asking.
I am not traveling right now because of all this travel restraints right now.
Yes.
I'm sure. My last trip was to Hyderabad. I have signed copies in Kitab Khana and at Tidal Wave in Bombay. So you can find signed copies there. So if you want a copy, you can get it from there. But I might not be coming anytime in this month.
I know things are changing very quickly. Also, can we expect some Parsi food in Doon? Perhaps. We miss it here. There was one place that closed down after the pandemic. It was called Oe Dhikra or something. It closed down, but it was inspired by Soda Bottle, of course. But
Yes. So I think Soda Bottle was a big trendsetter in that way. And Lokesh, I know I've been seeing Lokesh's messages that will I be visiting Rajasthan again. Honestly, I'm not sure if I'm traveling right now, but if you obviously follow me on Instagram, you know where I'm traveling. And wherever I might be, and if I can meet you guys, I will definitely plan. So if I can plan Jaipur out, I might plan that out because it's close. I can travel by road. So I might be able to plan that out. And definitely Dehradun will be on my list as well. And maybe we can do a nice pop-up or we can do some kind of
Why not? We miss Parsi food so much here. And the one, I tried it there, but it was okay. It's fine. I don't want to give my opinion here, but let's not do that.
Someone asking for Bangalore and Chennai. Bangalore, I have already signed copies. I was there for 3 days. I did 3 different events, so I don't know how you guys missed it. There are lots of pieces in Higginbotham's is a very old bookstore. You can find signed copies there. And Chennai, I was planning, but because of the cyclone, I have not been able to plan that out right now. But maybe I will plan it out in advance. If everything's okay, touch wood, we will plan it out.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much. The book is just brilliant. Just brilliant. I will receive my copy soon, hard copy soon, which I'm itching to again read. But as of now, I have it on my tab, and
thank you.
It's just amazing.
So I just want to say thank you to all of you who've been watching so patiently, listening to this live session. It's been amazing, and you can get my copies on Amazon, at bookstores. And you know what? We can plan something with Book Nerds. You can send me some copies at home, and I can sign them and I can send them to your outlets. So people in Dehradun can definitely get some signed copies at the store.
Surely, of course, our book club community would love to kind of pick up a copy, and also try the recipes, guys. Nothing better. Just try the recipes, and post your DM Anahita or us. Tell us more about the book. What did you like? What you didn't like, perhaps. Tell us everything.
Yeah, I'm always open to feedback and taking criticism with pinch of salt. So it's all about learning, and every day is a learning. So yes, it can't be perfect. So whatever your thoughts are, please do share it. But most importantly, buy the book. Please buy the
Yes,
book. I
yes.
would love to read it, and there are some really funny stories as well. There
Yeah.
are interesting conversations in the book, and most importantly, recipes. So pick up the
And your
book.
dad is the editor also. Your dad is the editor.
Yes, so I mean, everyone in the family has been an editor in the book. It's a full, if
Yes,
you
sir.
read the acknowledgements, you'll find all the credits there.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Raita. It
Thank
has been a pleasure. The book is
you.
just top notch. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.